All right, let's dive into something that honestly impacts pretty much all of us: labor law. Now, I know it can sound super complicated and a little intimidating, but when you really get down to it, it's a story about fairness, about safety, and about our rights when we're at work. So let's get into it.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? From that very first paycheck you ever received to the day you decide to retire, there's this entire legal framework that's supposed to have your back. But what is it really? What are the basic protections you have as an employee?
So, our guide for this journey? It's actually a university syllabus. I know, it sounds a little academic, but trust me, it lays out the entire story of a worker's rights in a really clear, logical way. We're going to use it as a map to make sense of it all.
At its core, you gotta understand that labor law isn't just a big book of no's for employers. It's really a system built to balance the power between the people doing the work and the people paying for it. It's all about making sure there's a foundation of dignity and protection for everyone involved. So where do we start this story? Well, for most of us, it all begins with getting paid, right? It's the most fundamental part of the whole deal, and believe me, it is heavily protected by law. The idea of a wage seems pretty simple on the surface, but the law looks at it from a few different angles, and it asks a really important question. Is your pay just some random number, or is it actually enough for you to live on? And that brings us to a really key distinction. You've got the minimum wage, which is exactly what it sounds like, the absolute rock-bottom legal floor. No one can pay you less than that. But then there's this other idea, the living wage. That's a totally different conversation. It's about what you actually need to cover basics like rent, food, and utilities. The law mostly deals with enforcing the minimum, but the debate around both is at the heart of what fair pay really means.
And look, these aren't just abstract ideas. They have real teeth. You have laws like the Payment of Wages Act, which makes sure you get paid on time and without any sketchy deductions. Then there's the Minimum Wages Act, which sets that legal floor we were just talking about. And even things like bonuses are covered by the Payment of Bonus Act.
But your job isn't just about the day-to-day work, is it? I mean, life happens. You might get sick, you might decide to have a family, and eventually you're gonna want to retire. So what does the law do to build a safety net for those big moments? This is what's often called Social Security legislation. And the goal is pretty straightforward: to create a financial cushion so that one of life's major events doesn't become a total financial disaster for you and your family. And this safety net, it's got a lot of different pieces. You've got laws for when you get injured on the job, laws for general health insurance, systems for mandatory retirement savings, what many of us know as a PF or Provident Fund, and of course, absolutely crucial support for new mothers. Let's take this one. The critical idea here is that if you get hurt doing your job, you shouldn't have to carry that financial weight all by yourself. The law puts the responsibility on the employer and sets up a system to get you the medical care and financial support you need to recover. And it's a similar kind of thinking here. This act basically says that having a child isn't a career problem that needs solving. It's a huge life event that deserves support. It ensures a woman has job security and paid time off so she doesn't have to make an impossible choice between her family and her income. Okay, so we've covered your paycheck and the social safety net. Let's talk about the final piece of this puzzle, the place where you actually work. What are the rules that shape your day-to-day environment? Here we see some of the heavy hitters. You've got these big, broad laws like the Factories Act, which sets standards for everything from safe machinery and clean air to how many hours you can work. Then you have these super focused laws like the Equal Remuneration Act, which hits gender pay gaps head on. The rule is simple: equal pay for equal work. And of course, there are the fundamental laws that protect the most vulnerable by prohibiting child labor. So after going through all these individual rules and regulations, what's the big takeaway here? Why did we build this entire complex legal structure in the first place? It all comes down to this. These laws aren't just dry text in a book. They're a living, evolving set of principles. As the world of work changes, they change too. But their purpose stays the same: to make sure everyone is treated with dignity and protected from being taken advantage of. When you think about it that way, from that first job to your retirement, labor law is this invisible architecture shaping your entire career. It's a story that's still being written, all to make sure that work serves us, not the other way around. And that brings us right to the edge of the future, doesn't it? With the explosion of the gig economy, remote work, artificial intelligence, the very definition of a job is shifting under our feet. So the real question is, what's the next chapter in this story? What new protections are we going to need? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.